Hey everyone, I'm Chris here with the Superhero Show. Now we're going to talk about the Fantastic Four. We kind of held off for a week.
We did.
To let everyone see it in all of its glory. And we're going to talk about kind of what went wrong. Things are now slowly coming out.
Yeah.
Josh Trank has been on a few podcasts. He's put a few tweets out there, which he's deleted. We're kind of finding out a little bit more of the situation because we knew it was in trouble coming in the run-up to the movie.
Yeah.
So we're going to dig a bit deeper into that. But first off, we haven't given our opinion on the movie as yet. So, Chris.
A joyless mess of a movie.
Okay.
It's just very disappointing. You know, and you try and find the good in it in that first half. There were some nice ideas. The actors aren't terrible. But just overall, over the weekend, I watched the other two Fantastic Four movies. I watched the 2005 one again, and I watched the Roger Corman film that was never released for the first time. And I honestly couldn't tell you which one I liked the best or the worst. Honestly, this was a $120 million movie, $122 million apparently. That Corman one was less than $1 million, and I enjoyed them about the same amount.
Well, it went further back then, though, didn't it?
Well, there was a heart and soul to that one, though, that I guess they started off this one trying to inject that, but by the end, it's just all dissipated. They're not a family. I don't care about any of these characters. I don't know who some of them are. And obviously, the last 20 minutes is just a god-awful mess.
There's this kind of very noisy, crunching gear shift midway through. Yeah. I think it's around the time that Reed escapes from the facility and goes to Panama for God knows what reason, when he could probably help Ben more effectively staying there.
Yeah.
From there on, it becomes there's a big weld mark, I think. I just think it completely misses out what is special and unique about that set of characters.
Yep.
The fact that they're just a bunch of young kids. There's no, I've been reading some of the comics over the last week just to kind of refresh myself and kind of reaffirm what I like about those characters. And it's obvious to say, but they're a family and they do very mundane things. And they also do very fantastic things. You know, there's scenes in the comics where their kids are having a birthday party. Sue and Reed are having chats in bed. There's tension, but they come together. Yeah. There's none of that in this situation.
No, they kind of tell you that these things are happening, but you don't see it. And you know, Reed has a crush on Sue.
But it's still it's
not
flimsy.
there. It's not there. And the friendship between Ben and Reed, it's there initially when they're little kids, but then Ben just disappears. I get no sense of who that guy is, let alone their friendship. All we know is that Reed suddenly wants him to come on this mission with him. He doesn't want Sue there. He wants Ben there, and it's like, I don't understand.
That sucks that she doesn't get to go on the mission. So I'll just help them out, and she kind of gets powers as well. Yeah. It's very strange. Also, there's no sense of, in the comics, they're explorers. There's a line where they're in the library and they're discussing, and he says his favourite book is Jules Verne, Captain Nemo. That idea of adventure and exploration, and they pick up a bit on that. The fact that he's going to another dimension, but there's kind of these little loose threads of characterization that don't really work for me. Like the fact that Reed Richards, why is he making this machine as a kid? He's the smartest man in the Marvel universe, and he doesn't really know what it's for. Later on, the government wants to use it to find additional energy resource for the planet, but Reed never states a reason for building this machine. Plus, he doesn't know what he's doing.
No.
Surely, if he's fixed the machine and has it working, he knows it's going to another dimension, not some desert in China.
Well, we were told this was going to be a much more science-focused film, a science fiction take on it. And they keep talking about science without ever really explaining the science. I just felt like it was just hanging there, and you know, rocks get into Ben Grimm's thing.
Oh, that annoyed me.
You know, fire gets into another one. Fine, well, that's how they got their powers. But then how did the other two get there? You know, did a rubber band get into Reed?
Sue was just... she had a pop-up window, and then she minimised it.
Yeah.
That's just badly thought out. I would almost rather none of that.
But it was all this highfalutin stuff we were told in advance, and then when it actually showed up, it was like, nah, this is dumber than the 2005 version.
Yeah.
You know, and the body horror, the horror, yeah. I mean, I feel like that's where cuts were made, maybe, that 1 year later, sort of dissolve. I feel like the butts and stuff in between, we would have got a bit more of that body horror that you and I were quite interested in. We talked about on the show.
It's one of the scenes I think works quite well in the movie when he emerges from the crashed teleporter and you see Johnny on fire as a corpse.
Yeah.
And then there's a bit where some of the effects later on are very ropey. There's one bit where Reed is stretched out on the gurney. Yeah. And that does look really good. And it looks really horrific.
Yeah, yeah.
And it's almost like I can kind of extrapolate what movie that would have been from. Yeah. And it's totally at odds with what comes later.
Yeah.
because the whole dramatic climax of the movie is a horrible mess. Doom is awful.
Yeah.
I really dislike the treatment of Doom. There's scenes in the trailers where Reed's interacting with Doom that's completely gone from the movie, which seems like a big scene. Like Reed would have this confrontation with Doctor Doom, and then at the end, just the resolution, the final action sequence. It's like, well, I've heard stories about Miles Teller being the only member of the cast that they could get back to shoot in front of green screen.
Yeah.
And you know what? It looks like Miles Teller is delivering lines on his own in front of a green screen. He completely like fumbles those big hero lines, and he's just delivering them to no one.
And we won't even get started on its clobbering time. To be fair, we've already done a review that's quite negative, and we've done the spoiler cast in the States. But is there anything you liked about it?
No.
I
find it really hot because it's almost like I can't even say it's a bad movie, because yes it is, but more than anything it's a broken movie. You can't even, it just lacks a cohesion.
I liked the scanners head pops that Doom was doing. I thought that was cool.
But his power is just anything.
It was completely at random. And I also thought the scene in the forest was really good with Reed using his powers, and it took it away from the film being in two rooms, which it was for the rest of the movie. And it was just frustrating seeing that and thinking, yeah, more of that. Like, with this kind of budget, the effects we've got these days, that was really awesome seeing him take down a bunch of soldiers. More of that, less of people in a room chatting.
I like the scene where Reed's in the air duct and he looks down at Ben and Ben looks up to him, and it's quite a heartbreaking moment. And then that's completely undercut by the rest of the movie. When he looks at him quite pathetically, he's trapped in this rock, he's like, Reed, help me. And it's quite horrific, that moment, and he just runs away. That's really sad, and it's full of pathos, and yet that just evaporates in the next 40 minutes. By the end of the movie, Ben seems pretty fine with,
and he does still run away. So I've got loads of bits of paper here, because we're trying to get to the bottom of what went wrong, which we obviously aren't going to do here, but we can speculate about what happened. The Hollywood Reporter did a bit of a takedown of what Josh Trank, the director, was up to. I feel like some of this was quite harsh, but some of it's quite interesting. I mean, he apparently sent an email to the cast saying that before the film was released, saying it's better than 99% of the comic book movies ever made, which I guess you've got to kind of put positivity out there, but
if it's not been made yet.
They reckon one of the cast members wrote back to him saying, I don't think so. I have an idea that might be, but I wouldn't like to say. Obviously, there's been talk about his erratic behaviour on set and off set and at home, and he's apparently enlisted a lawyer now because it's turning quite nasty between him and Fox. There's the situation with his house and the damage that happened there. Apparently,
4 pugs.
Yeah, that's not a good scene. So the tweet he sent out, the cancelled tweet, the deleted tweet. The tweet, he said, a year ago I had a fantastic version of this and it would have received great reviews. You'll probably never see it. That's reality though. Not a good thing to send out. That could really affect his career. The Wrap, though, have been talking to some box office analysts. They reckon it could have cost the film between 5 and 10 million opening weekend, from people who are undecided and comic book fans who don't really listen to reviews by people like us. That might have made a decision for people. The director of the movie putting that out there. And to put that in context, the film had been tracking at $40 million apparently. It made 26.2 million opening weekend. The original Fantastic Four movie 10 years ago made 58 million, and 56 million, and the sequel made 58 million. So it made less than half of both of them. And they think that because of that tweet, he could face legal issues over that as well. He could be sued for that.
Isn't this a really sad turn of events? Because the reason that he got given this gig in the first place is suddenly, after Chronicle, he was like Fox's prodigy kid.
Yeah.
Like, he was the prodigy. He made them like over 100 million on like a $10 million movie, something like that.
Yeah, it was $12 million, and it made about 120 million.
Modestly budgeted movie.
Yeah.
He got this pretty quickly after. I think there's rumours about Fox was aware that it had an internal perception of kind of getting on its director's cases a bit too much, so they took a hands-off approach, really bought into his pitch for the movie. And then what I feel like, looking at the movie that is a movie of two halves, that he was going for this realistic thing. They saw probably rushes and gone, oh my god, we don't have the big summer blockbuster here. We have a kind of niche take on something we want to be as big as any other Marvel movie. let's put the brakes on, let's intervene or intercede in some way. And that's why you have some of those changes. That's why the end of the movie just feels like so weird.
Yeah, I think there's two films. There's the film that we saw and then the film he was making. And I just get a sense that neither of them, that wasn't a good film either.
No.
Like, they said he resisted help. I mean, the Hollywood Reporter say he built a black tent around his monitor, which I think is kind of harsh because that's quite a normal thing for a director to do.
That's how they do, because it's like lights bounce.
But they also, the trouble is, they don't quote anyone specifically. They say a crew member and this and that. But they do say here, during takes, he would be telling cast members when to blink and when to breathe. He kept pushing them to make the performance as flat as possible. So, and also, like, I don't like some of the things he's been saying as well, because we know there was this issue over who Toby Kebbell was playing exactly. Back in November, Toby Kebbell told Collider that he was playing... Well, this is the direct quote. He said, "He's Victor Domashev, not Victor Von Doom in our story." So the internet went a bit wild over that. People weren't happy. And it sounds like the filmmakers took that on board and actually changed it. But only last week, Trank was talking to Kevin Smith on his podcast, which is quite an interesting listen. We both said that, and he said, there is no Victor Domashev, the name was always Von Doom. Completely contradicting what Toby Kebbell said, and clearly what the truth was.
And also, he goes on to say to Kevin Smith that it was a device that I gave him because I didn't want him to be like burdened by the iconography of this character, the accumulated cultural value of this character. It's like, well, he's an actor.
Yeah, he can
tackle that, and he still knows he's playing Doctor Doom.
Yeah, he just played a monkey. He can do this. He can handle this. Kebbell said, "The Doom in ours. I'm a programmer, very antisocial programmer, and on blogging sites, I'm Doom." And Trank said to Kevin Smith, "No, he's not a blogger." So it's like, well, you're totally contradicting your actors, and you're making this up as you go along now.
Also, Kebbell in the last week during press said, yes, it was changed. So again, another contradiction.
Yeah.
And also the scene where Franklin Storm goes and visits Doom for the first time. It's almost quintessential Hollywood hacker setup. He's got a beard, he's got loads of monitors.
Yeah.
He's apparently controlling his entire flat using Google Glass.
It's that bloke in House of Cards, you know, the bloke that's held up in the
it's like everything about that setup screams hacker.
Yeah.
So he definitely is.
Yeah.
It's just such a weird... And also, interestingly, if you see the movie, I'm pretty sure that you never see anyone say Von Doom on screen. Every mention of Von Doom is done either VO or there's an insert where it's written down, which could have been added like months later.
Yeah.
So I think it was Domashev. Also, the chimpanzee that goes in the teleporter is awful. The Fox surely have access to the Planet of the Apes technology. I saw Kebbell looking at that and going, Come on. I could do. I nailed that. I do better than that.
I nailed that 2 years ago.
Yeah.
So I don't know when we'll know what went wrong with this. You know, it feels like there's more coming out day after day. It's a horrible situation for Fox. It's a really sad situation for Josh Trank. I think he needs to keep his mouth shut at this point. But
well, he's been on Kevin Smith's Fat Man on Batman podcast for the last 3 weeks running. I think last week he said that, Fox are really happy with this movie. And then he's supposed to be, at the time of recording, the podcast hasn't come out, he's supposed to go on again to talk about the movie post-release. And given everything that's happened last week, I can't imagine him doing that. I feel like he would be advised not to.
But if it doesn't happen, Josh, we're happy to speak to you about this. So there we go. Oh. I think that's that then. That's an ongoing story. Yeah.
I find it really fascinating.
It's been grimly, it's been like watching a car crash, isn't it? That you can't take your eyes off.
Well, after I saw the movie at the weekend, I went through all the original trailers, and I know it's been flagged a lot, but there's so much in those trailers that's nowhere in the movie.
Yeah.
Like, entire scenes that we speculated over in Rewind Theatres that just don't exist in that movie.
Yeah, I'm trying to look at our Rewind Theatres.
Sue crying over Johnny on the floor.
Yeah.
Ben Grimm falling out of a stealth bomber. It's just not in the movie.
Do you think we'll see a director's cut?
No, I don't think they'd let him at this point. I can't imagine them wanting to trade on that even.
Well, do you want to know what you guys thought? So you've been emailing us lots and lots. We'll start off with the negative. This is from Ryan Pollard, who says, I think Josh Trank's reboot of The Fantastic Four goes down in history as one of the biggest disappointments or missed opportunities of all time. I had really high expectations. I was hoping for it to be a bold reimagining of Marvel's remaining, I think he means reimagining, of Marvel's first family, especially after the awful Tim Story movies. Sadly, it makes those two movies look like enjoyable fare, as the film suffers from being completely all over the shop. There was no comprehensible narrative structure, a clear lack of direction, unlikable, underdeveloped main characters with no familial connection whatsoever, and a very weak villain that makes all of Marvel's MCU villains appear fleshed out in comparison. All the best stuff was in the trailers, and nearly all of that footage didn't end up in the final film. I think Ryan's nailed it there better than we just spent 10 minutes prattling on, but he just nailed it.
The trailer was a better movie, and it was made of footage that didn't exist in the final movie. Great.
Yeah.
Okay, another one from the negative zone. I saw the new Fantastic Four 2 days ago and was fairly underwhelmed by the whole experience. Going into this film, I knew there had been problems in production, and it does show with a lot of tonal shifting from light-hearted to dramatic, almost horror at points. I also feel that the ending and Doctor Doom, who I actually feel looks quite cool when he is in full-on Doom mode, are woefully rushed, and the entire second half seems to grind to a halt, then suddenly rush to the ending to make up for that. I accept that this is not a good film throughout, however. I would argue that there are good elements. The gaining powers were dealt with in a new way that I've not really seen before now. The cast was pretty good, and first half of the film I feel did a lot to ground the characters in a more realistic way to get their powers, and was almost plausible. The reason for this email is that I have seen the reviews of others and they absolutely slate this film. One called it this generation's Batman and Robin. So am I being too kind to the film? What are your thoughts on it? Do you want to see a sequel or franchise the film dangles in your face in the last 2 minutes? That is from Chaz.
Who found a little bit of positive, and I think maybe your next one, is that a little bit of positive as well?
Yes, this, I can't be his name, Quim.
Yep.
Quim. I think it's been underrated. I mean, it's not that bad. At least it had a pretty decent origin story, at least Reed and Ben's, and the cast was phenomenal. And the cast actually seems to be one of the points of contention in the production of the movie. Yeah. That Trank really fought for that cast. Some people he's worked with before, and Fox wanted more bankable stars.
Yeah. I've got one from a very good name. This is from Byron Butterfield in Bradford.
He's a superhero. He's gotta be from Bradford. What superhero would be from Bradford?
Byron Butterfield. Hi guys, just saw Josh Trank's comments regarding his fantastic version of the film. I for one think it is a case of a director trying to pass the buck for what has turned out to be a poor film. It's all too easy for a director to just blame the studio when it goes wrong because people just believe them. I've felt this, like it feels like you're supposed to take a side in this, and normally people will side with the director because the studio's the big bad boogeyman. But in this one, I'm less convinced that it's the studio's fault. Yeah. But it's hard. We don't.
I think they're both at fault for different reasons at different times.
Aaron Davis has a question. Is this the first massive failure of a modern superhero movie? Will it have any repercussions on future movies?
I don't know. There's like...
I was in New Zealand.
There's loads of films that we kind of forget now, though. Like Electra, Ghost Rider 2.
Yeah.
There's been quite a few of those ones where I think they just came just before, when Fox was making loads, before like... Marvel really took off, that we kind of forget about.
And I just feel weird, like someone saying, is it this generation's Batman and Robin? I still feel like they're all one generation, but maybe it's 20 years and I'm just getting old. I remember it all too well, the pain of Batman and Robin.
This is not a Fantastic Four credit card.
No. So a lot of people wrote in about the future, the potential future. Have you got the first email on that front?
We know one that... This is from Alistair. Alistair says, we know one of the points of this new FF movie was to keep the franchise in Fox's ballpark. Some people said the reason they waited 7 years was the absolute limit they could wait before the rights would revert back to Marvel. But it's just so embarrassing. What's the point? Spidey sense, a Sony-like deal coming along with Fox holding the rights to FF, but Marvel Studios produce the next installment and have pretty much all creative control. That could mean Doctor Doom or Galactus for Phase 4.
Yep, that's an interesting idea.
I think over the weekend someone from Fox came back, like you said, even though we are disappointed, they use that language, we are, and this is not verbatim, but he said, like, we are committed to this vision. Yeah, you might just want to say that opening weekend because the movie's still in theatres. So it'll be interesting to see what they say 3-4 months down the line. Yeah,
Dan Mortimer says, since Fantastic Four tanked both critically and financially, do you now think Marvel may buy the rights back? It's reported that Fox and Marvel are in discussions about an X-Men TV show, as Marvel controls those rights. Do you think the Fantastic Four could be used as a make-weight for Fox to secure them? It makes sense in my head that Fox have had very limited success with FF and huge success with the X-Men. The FF joining the MCU could help Marvel launch Phase 4 with Infinity War. A lot of people emailed with that suggestion.
But I don't know. Currently, I think there's no room for them in the Marvel Universe. I think that plan has gone so far ahead. But I think it'd be brilliant if they got them back and they did a movie set in like the late 60s, 70s, Mad Men style. George Clooney as Reed Richards. Do you want to hear my pitch for the opening scene? I thought about this a lot over the weekend.
Yeah.
So, opening scene is a kind of a indirect homage to The Incredibles, but that was a homage to Fantastic Four. Dinner scene. Sue and Reed are cooking dinner. You see like a glass drop and Reed catches it and you're like, I'm not really sure because the angle, did he stretch to get that? I'm not really sure. Johnny Storm's lighting the cooker, but you don't really see how he does it. So there's all this ambiguity. Have they got their powers or not? What's happening here? And then they open the door and it's Ben and he just comes in as the Thing and they sit down and they have dinner together. And they're already a family.
Yeah.
They already got their powers and it turns out that Reed was part of the NASA program or something. That'd be awesome. Like, just have it up and running.
I like it. I saw someone suggest that setting for our next movie, and Peyton Reed as director, because he did well with Ant-Man, and he also did Down with Love, which is a really good 60s movie. I don't know, get Edgar Wright on the case.
I love that idea, like, they would... Because they're trying to backfill the Marvel Universe. Because I think with everything up and running, they're kind of a little bit tight with where characters have to be. But if they go back, they've got this enormous freedom. They could do that with Peggy, they can do that with Ant-Man and Wasp if they wanted to do an older movie. And I think Fantastic Four would be perfect. Because there's that space age, you could really tap into the origins of the comic in an interesting way.
Yeah.
Okay, so Ryan from Georgetown, Guyana. Hey Ryan. Firstly, they should go ahead with the planned sequel, but have Bryan Singer direct. He's a busy man. That way, Singer will have creative control over both major franchises under Fox, and he'll be able to create a path as he sees fit to eventually bring both teams together somewhere down the road and in the process find redemption for the Four. Secondly, Fox should take a page out of Marvel's playbook and go cosmic. Like Guardians of the Galaxy, Fox has a relatively unknown band of not-so-merry men at their disposal called the Starjammers. They should take a risk on them and in the process find a way to integrate the Four into the cosmic storyline and hope for the best.
Got another Bryan Singer fan here, Simon Hamilton. Fox either need to sell the license for Fantastic Four back to Marvel or put Bryan Singer behind the project. Singer may not be a massive comic book fan, but I'm sure he can do a fantastic job, no pun intended, with the group. Fox's record with comic book movies that haven't had Singer as the man behind the camera has been well below par for the most part. At least with the first two Fantastic Four movies, they could use the excuse of feeding the market, but the reboot shouldn't have any excuse not to be a success in this day and age, especially with a villain like Doctor Doom. I just hope Deadpool and Gambit do well, because after seeing this movie, I'm worried for those two.
Tyler Smith. Hey guys, my name is Tyler from Texas. I was wondering about your opinions regarding Fox's options for the Fantastic Four. The recent reboot has certainly been a critical failure and will be lucky to make a profit. Should Fox continue with this franchise and try to right their wrongs in a sequel? Should they cross over with the X-Men, sell the rights back to Marvel, or do the dreaded idea of waiting a few years and rebooting yet again? I really like where Fox is going with the X-Men, but for whatever reason, they just can't get Marvel's first family right. So those are kind of the main options, aren't they? I think they're just going to... Do you think they're going to plough ahead with this cast and just go for it?
I think they might, and I think they shouldn't.
Yeah.
They didn't do enough for me. I think they're all good actors, and I think they didn't have a lot to work with, but it just didn't.
I just think in terms of story, they're just in the wrong place. I think it's so hard to get them into the place you'd want them. You've sacrificed Doom. If he comes back in the second one, it's one of the great Marvel villains.
I feel like maybe a new set of Fantastic Four need to show up in someone else's movie. Just show up as the fully formed family to come in an action scene, some interdimensional, I don't know what, but like just launch them in that way.
Yeah.
You know, like we're getting these characters launched in Batman v Superman. I don't know, because I don't need to see this. I don't want to see a sequel to this one, and yet I don't want to see the origin again. You know, I don't want to see this.
Just have them established, yeah.
Ryan Warren says, "Hi guys, I watch your show every week, and I had an idea come to me after one of you had mentioned Stephen Strange on your previous show. Now that the new Fantastic Four movie has bombed miserably, do you think there's any hope for them working out?" I came up with one the other day. I would say it tranked at the box office.
It's very good.
And I'd like tranking at the box office to become like Jumping the Shark. Now that the new Fantastic Four movie has bombed miserably, do you think there's any hope for them working out a deal with Marvel to get Silver Surfer for Infinity War? They could introduce him and set up Infinity War by using the first issue of Infinity Gauntlet page by page. In the Doctor Strange movie, he finishes saving the world, then the credits roll. The mid-credit sequence clip starts playing, and it's Stephen Strange sitting in his house, looking over books and scrolls and relaxing. That's what I always do when I'm relaxing. Check out a scroll. There's a huge crash in the other room, and when he checks, Silver Surfer is on the couch and simply says, Thanos is coming. It would introduce a new hero, the FF universe, and set up the big showdown for Thanos all in one scene.
Maybe,
what do you think?
But only if he's played by Martin Freeman. He comes in and he's just like, all right.
I like that though. That's a fun post-credit sting.
Joe Minieri has written along similar lines. Since everyone can agree the new Fantastic Four movie is just keep saying the same thing. Yeah. do you see Fox using Silver Surfer as a way to save this failing franchise? A solo Silver Surfer movie could be the gateway to the cosmic side of Fox. That's such a weird sentence. I've always wanted to get to the cosmic side of a fox. As I believe they hold the rights to several Marvel alien species, including the Skrulls. They could start the movie off by introducing the Surfer after already saving the Earth with the Fantastic Four, allowing the movie to shift gears to him in space, going from planet to planet using his powers to help other species as a way to repay his sins. With audiences already familiar with the character and increased interest in more cosmic stories, I think a solo Surfer movie is Fox's best bet in salvaging this failing franchise. Also, it would mean finally seeing a proper Galactus and not some weird space cloud.
So I thought I left the best to last. I really think that's the best idea. I don't think it's what will happen. But honestly, if they want to do more Fantastic Four, I think do it via a Silver Surfer movie.
Yeah, just bin them off for a bit. Like, do a Silver Surfer movie, make that success, and then through a sequel to that, bring them back in. Because the new Silver Surfer comic's brilliant. It's basically Doctor Who. It can go anywhere in space and time.
Yeah.
Like, that's a great conceit for an awesome movie.
Yeah.
Do with it what you will. It's such a great gift for a writer.
Yeah.
So they might do that. Oh, a little bit of positivity.
I'm going to finish off. I asked people on Twitter to send us 4-word reviews of the Fantastic Four.
No, but when you told me what you were doing, what did you say?
What did I say?
You say, I'm going to ask people on Twitter to send in their 4-letter word reviews.
Ah.
Which is a bit naughty.
4-letter? Oh, yeah, that was a mistake, wasn't it? Nevertheless, some people didn't really understand the meaning of 4 words. So that was
hard, isn't it?
A little bit
it's
annoying.
Hard, isn't it?
So there's some good ones though. So I'll read out some of my favourites. Tom Pritchard says, too many genre switches.
I'm thinking of a room. Just Western.
Gareth Brooks says, it's just fantastically forgettable. Cal says, it's a swear word, the fantastic F up. Trilson Fisk, excellent name, says, promising beginning, awful ending.
Yeah, I've heard that one before.
Unbox Heaven says, sell to Marvel, please. Matt says, meh, could have been better. Charisma Reborn says, RIP Fantastic Four franchise. Joseph Roberts says, wouldn't even pirate it. That was a good one. Timur Hussain says, pray for X-Men Apocalypse. Ruth Walker says, clunky, cringeworthy, laughable, dire. And Dennis LaChapelle, who doesn't know how to count, says, it's Ishtar for the comic book movie industry.
Great.
Definitely not 4 words, Dennis. Definitely not.
Cool. So yeah, if you want to use any of them on sort of packaging or posters in the future, just we can sort that out. We can hook you up. If you've got any more thoughts on Fantastic Four or anything else, email us at supershow@ign.com.
Yeah, one thing I was thinking about is maybe doing a show where Dan and I rank the 3 Fantastic Four origin movies. So let us know which one's your favourite of those 3. The Roger Corman ones on YouTube, watchable now, unless they've taken it off. And
it's watchable unless it's not there.
Unless it's not there, in which case. But yeah, let us know your thoughts on that, and we'll maybe sneak that into a future show.
Cool, we'll do that in the future. Yeah, so that's it from us this week. For everything on Marvel, DC, and all the rest, stay right here on IGN
and Fox.
And Fox.